Okay, so we have reached the end of the 9 attributes of microservices as outlined in Martin Fowler's seminal article. But there are some things you should note. First, these are guidelines, not mandatory instructions. You should not follow blindly everything that is described here, but take a close look at each and every attribute and adapt only what works for you. Some attributes might not be relevant, and it's completely legitimate to decide not to follow them. In fact, I'm not familiar with even a single system that meets each one of these attributes, and I've worked on dozens of them. Another thing to note is that the microservices world is rapidly changing, and concepts that were true just 2 years ago are considered obsolete today. So it's important to follow new APIs, new monitoring tools, new cloud services, and more. In fact, even in this section we discussed some attributes that shouldn't be followed blindly and are replaced by newer, better ones. We said that about the APIs, which REST are not the only option nowadays, and also about the communication patterns between the services, for which we concluded that there are better options than direct communication between services. I do want, however, to highlight the attributes that, in my humble opinion, and in light of working on a lot of microservices systems, are the most important ones, and the ones you should try your best to meet. First is componentization. You should try as much as possible to make your components services. The modularity of your system should be done using out-of-process components, also known as services, rather than in-process components implemented as libraries. The ease of deployment and maintenance of system that its components are out-of-process services is really unmatched. Next is the organized around business capabilities attribute. The importance of this attribute is that it forces the team, including you, the architect, to think long and hard about the boundaries of the service. With microservices, we can't just say, let's begin with a small API and see where it goes. We can't change the API at will, because it will make other services working with it incompatible and will make a lot of other teams quite angry. By designing a well-bounded service, we make our system more modular, the service more independent of other services, and our maintenance much easier. The next important attribute is decentralized governance. This is one of the most popular attributes because it lets the teams to use the technology best suited for the service's needs. No more do we have a service handling documents with slow and incompatible relational database, and no more must we use slow and legacy technology when what we really need is a light and fast one. By implementing this attribute, the teams can really use the best tool for the task, and that will make the teams satisfied, and as a result, the other services and the end users too. Decentralized data management is also one of the most important attributes. True, we had some reservations about it, and it's still the most controversial attribute, but still, when possible, it's definitely a great idea to use a separate database for each service. It makes the service more autonomous and less dependent on other external mechanisms. The last one in this list is the infrastructure automation. This is definitely something you shouldn't compromise on. Building a microservices architecture without automation in place will probably result in a system slow to test and deploy, and the client will start to question the effectiveness of it all. So before embarking on your microservices journey, talk to the IT and dev guys and make sure automated tools are part of the plan. Okay, so these were the attributes of a well-designed microservices architecture. I hope this section gave you the required knowledge for designing microservices architecture, and remember, we have a case study later in this course that will show how all this comes to action in a real-world system. As usual, if you have any question or comment, please let me know. I love getting questions from my students, and I promise to get back to you with answers. And with that, let's move on to the next section.